There we go. Now we're actually live. It's crazy you have to go check and make sure that your thing doesn't lie to you. You'd think that the YouTube telling you that you're live would be not a lie. But you'd be wrong if you thought that. Hey, Destructo Cat, stop clawing at the expensive couch. You happy now? Yeah. Okay. All right, so check one thing on YouTube here. Content creator. Always got to keep track of our ability to be monetized. We're good. All right. And let's see, just under 10% of the way there on watch hours. You guys need to step up the game. Start watching stuff. Okay, so the legitimate question on everyone's mind, or what should be on everyone's mind, is why am I still playing this game? Why am I still playing this game over Cyberpunk, which obviously is the thing that gets the most viewers here and all that stuff? And the answer for that is it's addictive. I like games like this; they are addictive. All right, so last night I left off asking the question, what is my plan going forward? Am I going to keep digging this out until I get what I keep getting? What am I trying to say? Until I get enough magnetite to fully upgrade the blacksmith, or should I continue? So those boxes, should I do the left side of those boxes and just keep running the drilling machine? Which, God, you want to talk about boring? And find all the gold nuggets in the world, and also just be prepared for when the future comes. So I don't have to, stop a well-oiled, you know, mining machine to drill that stuff out. And the answer is yes. So obviously, I am still digging this out. I am going to go until I have updated at least the gold losses. Because there's a few categories of the blacksmith. There's the amount of gold you can do at one time. There's the price of it, and there's the loss of gold. I think there's one more. But anyway, those are the ones I can remember right now. The only thing that matters to me is actually using gold. Like, I don't care about it. The other thing is that when we sell gold, because I don't own this parcel, I'm not just leasing it for free because that's what happened with the first one. Um, I have to pay 30%, I think it is, of all gold that I sell to old Arnold, the guy who owns the parcel, or, whoever the hell it is. No thank you. So I'm going to try to hold off on selling gold as much as I can until I can buy this. I may even just go ahead and get a loan. Once I know I've got plenty of gold and I've got the blacksmith fully leveled up, I may just go ahead and get a $600,000 loan, even though I've got 350. Buy the parcel out completely, then go sell, $600,000 worth of gold, where I get to keep 100% of it, and immediately pay off the loan. So that seems like the right move. But oh shit, don't get stuck, please don't get stuck. Oh my god. I remember this from my first playthrough. That little corner there is an absolute nightmare. And you can reset your vehicles; they'll pop up over by that building, just above the smoke cloud there. Um, but if you have a bucket full of dirt, you just lose all the gold and magnetite that was in that bucket. That happened to me last night, and so I spent like 2 minutes trying to get this fucking thing out of a little stuck corner. What a nightmare. That time it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. Hello, person viewing. I'm now no longer talking to myself. The question on hand is, should I run the little drilling machine on the other side of these boxes and get a whole bunch of gold nuggets and just become super gold rich, or should I keep digging out this area that I've already, sort of done core samples on and collect enough magnetite that I can update the blacksmith? The plan is to update the blacksmith ASAP. You know what? I might not even. Oh no, I guess that doesn't matter. I don't know. Anyway, the plan is to get enough magnetite that I can fully upgrade the blacksmith. Then I'm going to get a loan to pay off the parcel of land, so that way I'm not paying 30% of my gold sales to the guy who owns this land. Because when you lease the property, you get it for obviously a lot cheaper, and with this one, you get it for free. But you always still have to pay out a percentage of your gold, stripped from the mine to the person who actually owns it, unless you buy the thing itself. And 30%, and it's like the next one is like 35%. That's a lot if you think about it. So it's 100% worth buying the parcel. And this whole time that we're going to be playing this, I will also be fighting for my life to keep this kitten from destroying my home. Stop clawing on the curtains! Yeah, talking to you. Stop it. Psychopath. If she's not clawing at the curtains or clawing at my couch, she's shitting on my floor. And she's litter box trained. That's the part that really pisses me off. I know she can use a litter box, just sometimes to be a little bitch. She just shits on the floor. It's like a power boost. Alright, I gotta go use this cat. Sorry, buddy. My adult cat, who will never shit on the floor, unfortunately, is right in my lap. I gotta kick him out real fast. You stop clawing at the curtain. There. I don't care if you stare on my TV. Stop clawing at the fucking curtain. Actually, everybody, pause this real fast. I'll be right back. I got dressed to go to physical therapy, and then it's not even today, it's tomorrow. All right, much better. More comfortable clothing. Not wearing my shoes and socks. I'm not a shoes off in the house person, per se, but I'm just going to be sitting on the couch and not going out for the rest of the day. I have absolutely no reason to be wearing sneakers. Neither do you. Okay. All right, where were we? Talking to myself, that's where. And I guess I'll turn the audiobook back on here in a minute. So we all got something to enjoy. Oh, I'm an idiot. This thing's full. Yeah. There we go. You know what? I would like some more lighting. Would you get off the fucking curtains? I opened them for a fucking reason. There we go. Alright. Audiobook is going to go on here. Plug this stuff in so we don't need to mute. Audible.
Mother remained still, watching Concepcion. Father put a hand on Victor's shoulder. And that's you, said Concepcion. Victor went for 2 weeks in the picture in Argo Bay. There were the shields was his hardest part. Since he wouldn't be attempting any atmospheric entry, he could make the shields as heavy as they needed to be, which was good. He learned that cosmic rays penetrating the shields and interacting with the network to form radio interference. So, the thicker the better. He didn't stop there, however. He also discovered that its interior created another layer of protection. Then he had radiation detection equipment and additional shield plates and tubes in case he needed to make adjustments on it. He hooked up the cords. Doing simple welding and cutting jobs, all trying to convince Victor that he, Momo, should be able to come along. That's one more. Something happens to your suit. It needs someone to help you. I can't think of anyone I'd rather have at my side. Said Victor. It's too dangerous. Is it too dangerous for me, but not too dangerous for you? It is dangerous. When I'm bigger, my body can take more of the abuse. You're tough, said Momo. I can take abuse. It has nothing to do with toughness, said Victor. It's more about body size and structure. You can't help how small you are. You're only a mountain. And believe me, it's not the kind of trip you'd want to go on anyway. It will be extremely difficult. No one feels to be blinded to the wind for a day. Usual punishment. Between the 220 villains or so. No birthday parties, no Christmas, no playing with friends, no time with your parents, no fun repairs on the street, no exploring, no desserts or cookies or fun treats. Or you get to chew my food. Simple vitamins or strong. Face. Love. I hate that stuff. You and me both, said Victor. You will be eating it every day for 7 months. No seasoning, no sprinkling it on bread to make it solid. Mixing it with sugar or beans, just straight. Plus, I have to wear a cap say it won't be comfortable. And there's the abuse. My bones will thin, I become susceptible to fracture. My muscles will weaken. My vertebrae will spread apart. My discs will swell with fluid, giving me backwards. I likely have decreased blood volume, maybe osteoporosis as my bones will be stones. Fatigue, and mention possible impotency from radiation exposure. Impotency means I wouldn't be able to have children. But I'm hoping that's not the case. That's why we've got the shields and water tanks. It's not important. You can get clean, said Mom. That would be fun at least. It goes fine. Trust me, Mama. You get sick of me. You can certainly won't get sick of me. Mama his head and began to cry. I want you to get sick. Victor set down his tools and floated over the moat. Hey, monkey brains. I'm gonna be fine. I'm exaggerating a bit. Isabella has all kinds of pills for me to throughout the trip.
100, nice. Normally we get 99, so I'll take that.
May need some gym time once I arrive to get the muscles back up, but I'll be fine. But what if the Omegas get you? The Omegas aren't going to get me, Mom. They're not going to get any of us. That's why we're hurrying to warn them, so that no one else gets hurt. Victor wanted to tell Mama that he would return soon, and that the two of them would be a team again when this was all over. You can continue as his apprentice. They'd learn the rest of the ship together. They'd invent things, build things, repair things.
Okay.
And Victor said none of that because he knew it wasn't true. He wouldn't be coming back. Probably ever. El Cavador needs you.
Zeroed out. Alright, good.
Needs you. And I'm going teach you properly. That's teaching me about the ship. And you, apprentice. When he threw his arms around Victor's neck and clung into his shoulder. For the next few days, Father ignored his work.
Oh, whoops.
Spent his time in Victor.
Maybe I forgot something.
Mother found excuses to be
Seems to
there
be
as
plugged
well,
in.
doing small jobs to the quick ship to make it as comfortable as possible. Father inspected Victor's work and kindly pointed out a few flaws.
There we go.
The two of them then selected the appropriate tools and addressed the issue together.
Much better.
works against you on your find someone you can trust and follow your instincts. I'll do my best, Victor said. Mother embraced him and gave him a small data card for his phone.
Now we could run another power thing.
Resourceful as you are, you're scared to death. Anyone can do
This is all water.
You can. You will reach there. Take risks.
So we need a power splitter for that plan.
Be smart. Make a committed decision, especially if you're
Service is done.
slid it into the slot on the side of his handheld. The icon appeared.
Okay.
He didn't click it. He checked and rechecked his hoses and attachments. He did a sweep with the
My life might actually be better.
No signs of radiation, though he didn't expect to, not this early in the trip.
That real fast. So my life might actually be better if I shift this over one more square. So run the drill of this lane right here. So basically these squares will now be this line of squares. That opens up this whole area for me to dig out as well, because I'm having trouble over in this corner. Just widen this up a little bit. So dump truck will be here. Yada yada yada. I'm going to go into town and get a power splitter and 1 or 2 more lights. I can get 4 more lights, honestly, with what I'm planning on doing. And I'm going to probably drop one right here to light this area up. Run one around here, put it in this general area to light up this. Oh, I got a power splitter right here. So I just need to get 3 more lights. I don't even need to get a power splitter. So, one here. Is this in? Yeah, it is doing stuff. Okay. Get back up. There we go. So, a light here. Shining that way. A light there. And a light there. So 3 more lights. That's all I really need. That works for me. It would be nice to replace something else that I'm paying rent on. God, I'm paying rent on that. I'm paying a lot of rent on that. $12,950. Holy balls. I mean, we got enough money to buy something. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and save. Because every time you load into the game, you get a new thing on sale. Currently, the drilling machine is on sale. But I already own this. This is the one thing that you're not really supposed to buy, and I bought it anyway. Let's move this into a better place. Oh boy, almost killed my generator. I feel like that needs, but if I move it, I'm almost certain to kill the light instead. Oh my god, I did all this and then I'm an idiot. The reason why we're saving is that we are going to load the game up again and see what we get on sale, because it's a different sale every time. All right, here we go. Okay. All right, what we got here? Bulldozer. Well, I don't need the bulldozer because I don't bulldoze anything at all. So you know what? Let's just give it another chance. Give me something for the wash plant. Gravel pump. I think that's something I actually need slash use slash want. Pretty sure this one right here is the gravel pump. It is. So this is going to be expensive. I have 350. How much is the gravel pump currently? 445. That is on sale at 445,000. So I guess the big question here is, should I buy it? What's magnetite? Oh, 0. Well, it's not going to be enough of this partial clean. 38%. I know when you turn things off, the audio still keeps playing as it's running. All right, so what are we doing? We're going to sell a bunch of gold, buy another gravel pump. Means I can put that in and swap it out too. The bigger question is, can I swap it out with this? First things first, get some boxes out of the way. Oh, fun. I didn't even have that highlighted. Why would you pick that up? What an absolute pain in the tuchus. Here. We can put both 4 in here. Happy now? Okay, so do this. Here's an idea. Figure it the fuck out, machine. All right, so to do this, unplug. Like I said, now that's ready to go. Where do I put those? You okay there, idiot? Knocking shit off. Oh no. Oh, fuck. You know what? We'll take it in the truck. I gotta walk 4 different things back over here. That's just so stupid. Alright, we'll get the 4 shortest cables we can find. Wait, do I want the short one? Yeah, I want the short ones. These are 4s. I'll put the audiobook back on.
He put the gear away.
Son of a bitch.
The rockets engaged, he would be pressed against it like a fist into the red dome. He clicked through his handheld and found the launch program hidden. He had watched the miners initiate the program countless times before as they sent cylinders on the moon. The rockets would accelerate quickly, far faster than a human could withstand. Victor had already researched human tolerance levels and altered the program to decrease the acceleration and lessen the G's. But as his finger hovered over the launch button, he wondered if he had pulled back the rockets enough. He needed to get up to speed as quickly as he could, but he needed to be careful, too. He hadn't trained for this. His body wasn't ready. He pulled back the acceleration setting a little more, just to be sure, and pressed the button. The program initiated. The rockets flared. The ship moved forward, slowly at first, and the rockets were hot, and the quick ship took off. Victor felt himself pushed back into the seat, and knew immediately that he had misjudged. He should have pulled back farther. His face felt slack. His body felt heavy. He reached out for the handheld, but his hand wouldn't obey him. His vision began to tunnel. His windpipe felt constricted. He was going to die. 2 minutes into his journey, and he was going to die. He thought of Honda and wondered if he would see her after this life. Mother believed such things, but Victor wasn't so sure. He hoped it was true, of course. He wanted nothing more than to see Honda again. Only not yet. His mind went blank. Then all went black. He woke sometime later, his body weightless. The ship was moving at incredible speed, but it was no longer accelerating. No more G's. It was increasing speed. Victor shook his head and blinked his eyes, feeling foolish for his mistake. This didn't bode well for a successful trip. He nearly killed himself right from the start. Brilliant. He blinked his eyes again. They no longer felt like they were boring into the back of his skull. His throat felt open and free. His whole body felt numb, as if all of his muscles were asleep from lack of circulation, which they probably were. His head pounded from a migraine. He felt nauseated and disoriented. I need a failsafe, he realized. If I have to decelerate and accelerate, I can't risk passing out and losing control again. He thought of the biometric sensors all over his body monitoring his vitals and wondered why he had never thought to connect them to the ship's operations. That had been a foolish oversight. He quickly whipped up a simple program on his handheld that would tell the ship to decelerate if his heart rate or blood pressure dropped below certain levels. devised a program to ask him questions periodically to identify a number, perhaps, or to retype a word. If he couldn't, if he had lost his mental faculties for whatever reason, the ship would decelerate until he came to himself. But what if I don't come to myself? He thought. Continue. If I die, then the ship will decelerate and stay out here and never reach you. Then what do you do? You better reach you as a corpse with the data cube and never reach you at all. After the program so that it was up out of the flat line for at least 24 hours, the rockets would accelerate and exit. You get this?
Hello.
This is Cassidy. Just calling to confirm your T15 pickup tomorrow.
Absolutely. I got a question for you. I have a doctor with I have an appointment with Dr. Capagauda next week. Can I set up a thing directly through you? Should I have their office do it?
It does have to be set up through the doctor's office.
Yeah, it's fine. I just didn't know how that worked. All right, I'll give them a call. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Bye.
More importantly, the data cube to Luna as quickly as possible. Over the next few weeks, he occasionally accelerated and decelerated, simply to train his body to withstand forces, increasing the speed of acceleration and deceleration a little more each time. He blacked out often, but the ship responded well and decelerated whenever it happened, allowing him to come to himself quickly. Eventually, he could stay conscious for 2 hours of fast acceleration, then 3 hours, then 4. In other areas, he wasn't doing as well. He really had to fall short. Victor had assumed that he would eventually come to accept the vitamin mush over time, that eating it would become tolerable simply out of habit. But it didn't. If anything, the mush became more than appetizing with every meal, and he had to force himself to eat it while suppressing his gag reflex. One of Father's ideas turned out to be a lifesaver. He had suggested that Victor bring along a mush bubble to inflate periodically on a flat surface inside the quick ship. With Victor inside and with the bubble filled with air, Victor could get out of his suit briefly and clean the suit tubes and brush his teeth and sponge his skin and do everything else he needed to keep himself sanitary. The biggest challenge of the trip, even more taxing than the physical stress or the food or the cramped confines of the ship, was the sheer boredom of it all. He had assumed that Lincoln's handheld with books and recordings and games and puzzles would be enough to stimulate his mind for 7 months.
No.
But here he was wrong as well. His eyes strained from looking at the screen after a few days, and soon even listening became tedious. As he approached the month mark, his mind continually returned to the message Mother had left him. He considered opening it early. What difference would it make after all? But he always decided against it. He had made a promise. He was so eager for something different, so desperate for a break in the monotony, that he found it hard to sleep the night before the message was to be opened. Eventually he slipped into slumber, and when he awoke, he clicked on the icon. Father had installed a holopad attachment to his handheld, and Mother's head appeared in the holospace. He lifted it and turned it toward him, so that it was as if she were looking directly at him. Even before she spoke, Victor felt more alone and more isolated than he had ever felt in his life. He had 6 months more to go, and already he hated this existence. "You're a month out, Vico," Mother said, "and by now you're probably ready for this trip to be over. Hang in there, Vico. Whenever you feel lonely, watch this message. Know that your father and I are thinking about you and praying for your safe arrival. We're proud of you, and we know you'll be fine." Mother paused to gather herself. Her voice had begun to break. She swallowed and sounded like herself again. "But that's not why we've made this message. You're my son, Vico, my only child, the light of my life. So know that what I am about to say, I say because I love you and want the best for you. Don't come back. Don't return to El Cavador. Under your seat, you'll find a disc with access codes to an account your father and I have set up for you. It's not much, but it's all we have. Concepcion has donated all her savings as well. Use that money to enroll in a university on Earth after you give warning. Your mind is too valuable to waste in the belt, because
It's going to be way more money than I need.
things. Not here. Not with us. Mother was crying now. I'll always love you. Make us proud. The message ended. Mother disappeared. They were releasing him. They were giving him a way to move on. He had wondered what he would do and where he would go after he had given the warning. And now he had his answer. The feeling of loneliness left him. He felt renewed, determined. He could endure 6 more months. For Mother and Father and Earth.
Okay.
He could endure it.
That will be that.
Chapter 16.
That should be enough.
Way Station 4. Lem was on the helm at the window when Way Station 4 finally came into view. At first it was just a distant dot in space, indistinguishable from the countless stars behind him. But the navigator assured Lem that it was in fact the outpost, and Lem made the announcement to the crew. They answered him with whistles and applause, and a few of the crewmen nearest him gave him a congratulatory slap on the back, as if Lem had built the thing himself.
Ugh.
Lem didn't mind all the positive attention. He had told the crew months ago that they would be stopping here for supplies and a bit of shore leave before pushing on to it. And ever since then, the crew had treated him warmly, smiling when they saw him, nodding as he passed. Suddenly, he wasn't the boss's son. He was one of them. Granted, supplies and shore leave weren't Lem's true motivation for the visit, and he felt a slight stab of guilt at all the celebration. The real reason for coming was to drop off Podolsky so he could wipe out Commodores' computers. And since everyone did, in fact, deserve a little break, no harm, no foul. Chums, turn our scopes on Way Station 4 and bring it up here to polar space, said Lem. I want to see what amenities await us. In the asteroid belt, way stations were enormous enterprises, with all manner of entertainment for miners desperate to escape the monotony of their ships. Casinos, restaurants, movie houses. One near Jupiter even had a small sports arena for zero-G wrestling matches and other theatrics. So when the image of Way Station 4 appeared large in the polar space for everyone on the helm to see, Lem knew at once that it was nothing like what everyone was hoping for. The applause died. The whistling ceased. Everyone stared. Way Station 4 was a cluster of old mining vessels and sheet of retired space stations, connected haphazardly together through a series of tubes and tunnels to form a single massive structure. It had no symmetry, no design, no central space dock.
We'll have to test those out and see which one I like better.
Connected to the structure wherever there had been room. It was like someone had rolled up a space junkyard into a sad little ball and decorated it with a few neon lights. It wasn't a way station. It was a dump. Lem could see disappointment on everyone's faces. Well, said Lem, clapping his hands once, I'm not sure which is uglier, a free miner way station or free miner women. It wasn't particularly funny, but Lem had hoped to elicit at least a polite chuckle. Instead, he got silence and blank stares, trying to change the mood. The good news, said Lem, smiling and trying to stay chipper, is that your stay at this delightful oasis of the Kuiper Belt is my treat. Drinks and food and entertainment are on me. Consider it an early bonus courtesy of Jupe Limited. As he expected, this news prompted another round of applause and whistles. Lem smiled. He had been planning to spring this surprise on the crew regardless of the station's condition. and now he was particularly relieved that he had thought of it before. He would sell a load of cylinders to pay for the expense, and again, Dulcie was the real motivation here. The man needed cash to fund for Dulcie to stay at the station and subsequently fly home, and he didn't want to use any corporate account for expenses. Giving everyone a bonus sounds more sense, albeit a temporary cover for getting to Dulcie cash.
Sure.
The man ordered the crew to dock the ship near the depository, a massive warehouse-like structure nearly as large as the station itself. Here, sea miners would use big ships, dumped and sold raw minerals as cylinders to the station at below market value. The way station then sent it all to Luna and big ships for profit. Most established families and clients had their own big ship system, and used the way station only as a source of supplies. The engineers and
There
starters
we go.
fully get equipment, still sold their iron balls here. Managed Chubbs left the airlock of the ship and stepped out into the docking tunnel. The dockmaster
Look.
he was a dirty little man in a jumpsuit and mismatched pair of greaves on his shins, who carried a holopad that he caught against the floor a few times.
Why is this rolling back
The air
up
was
the hill?
warm and thick with the scent of rock dust, machine oil, and human sweat. Name's Stagger, the man said. I'm the drop master here. You boys are jukies, eh? Don't see too much of your type around here. Most corporates stick to the A-belt. We're testing the waters, so to speak, said Lem. There are a lot of rocks out here. Stagger laughed, a cackle that showed a train wreck of teeth. Snowballs are more like it. If you can get through the frozen water and ammonia, you might find something. Otherwise, this is a no man's land. You're out here, said Lem. The business must be going well for you. Business doesn't do well for anybody out here, mister. This place used to be booming a long time ago, maybe. But a lot of the times have left. We scrape by like anybody else. Where do the trains go? Asked Lem. I thought this was a free miner's paradise. Stagger laughed.
Ah, shit, I forgot to get the fucking lights.
Scurry back to the inner system to the A-belt. They can't take all this space or the coal. I take it this is your first time out in the deep. It's not deep space, said Lem. It's only the Kuiper Belt. Stagger stopped. Only the Kuiper Belt. You make it sound like a vacation spot. Got a summer home out here, do you, Juki? He laughed again. We've got to sell some cylinders, said Lem. For cash. When did we speak with about that? You speak to me, said Stagger. But I should warn you, you won't get the same prices here that you get elsewhere. We have to adjust to reflect the greater distance we find ourselves at. This is the outer edge. I'm sure you understand. I understand it good, true. Lem thought. But aloud he said, we're prepared to negotiate. I'm not promising we're buying gold, said Stagger. Depends on what you're selling. We get a lot of folks trying to pass off game. So if that's what you're intending, don't waste my time.
What's going on? Hook up.
Young, the hoity-toities like yourself, but young we ain't. You'll be wise to remember that fact. You strike me as a shrewd businessman, said he. I wouldn't dream of harming you. I think you'll find our cylinders at high power. Lem nodded to Chubbs, who had been holding a sample cylinder all this time. Chubbs gently floated the cylinder in the air toward Stagger, and the man easily caught it. Stagger leaned over to a scanner on the wall. Apparently his mismatched reads had a different polarity and affected his gait, and she slid the cylinder into the designated slot. In a moment, the reading came back. Stagger tried to appear unimpressed. Your scanner doesn't lie, said Lem. That's some of the purest iron nickel I bet you've seen in a while. Stagger shrugged. It's decent. Nothing special, really.
Yeah.
So are you interested or not? Asked Lem. Stagger removed the cylinder from the Stagger's attention, smiling. Thanks. Listen, not this little tickle in my brain that I can't seem to scratch. Why would a bunch of junkies want to sell cylinders here? You boys have your own depository down near Jupiter. Jupiter's a long way off, said he, and I'm needed to get my food ready. The cash you give us will likely go back into the radio station here. So the way I see it, this is a win-win situation. Stagger studied their faces, his smile growing. Oh, aren't you the generous captain? He turned to the cylinder on his side and began inexplicably stimulating the air in front of him on the tip of his finger. You're doing this out of the kindness of your heart, is that it? Giving the boys and girls on board one last hurrah before setting out for home? I bet quite where this was headed. In so many words, yes. Stagger laughed. I told you I wasn't dumb, Mr. Hoity-Toity, and I meant it. A, the corporate never says what he means, and B, corporates never do squat for their crews unless there's something in it for them. You think I have some devious motivation, said Len, acting amused. Did it not occur to you that perhaps I want a break as well? Stagger shook his head. No, it seems to me you boys want this one off the books. Am I right? Don't want old Yuko Jukes to know you're skimming a little off the top for yourselves. Under the table mining, eh? Then you can scoot on home and tell your corporate stuffies that you didn't quite mine as much as you hoped. And everything you sell here, as far as they're concerned, never existed. While you drop a load of cash into your private bank accounts. He laughed. I wasn't born on an asteroid, boys. I know a pocket scheme when I see one. Is this how you always do business? Rep asked. Buying something your customers first? We ain't doing business until we understand one another, said Stagger. You corporates must have iron balls to show yourself around here. This ain't the headquarters of the corporate fan club, if you catch my meaning. A lot of people here won't be particularly happy to see you. We didn't come to make friends, said Len. We came to sell a few cylinders and have a decent time. I doubt your merchants will mind us giving them my money you mean, said Stagger. How much per cylinder? Asked Len. Can't answer that until you have an account, said Stagger. He began typing on his whole account. Whose name should I put this in? One of its chums exchanged glances. We'd rather avoid any record, said Len. I'm sure you would, said Stagger. But I can't buy it without adding it to the inventory. You boys can skip off your boss, but I can't skip off mine. You get an account or no sale. Who do you mind, said Chubbs. Chubbs, Stagger looked at Len. That's your name, mister. Fancy clothes like that, from the way you were talking, I figured you for the captain. My name, said Chubbs. The drop master shrugged. Suit yourself. He typed some more. His eyes still down, he asked, curiosity, how did you boys find this time? We'd rather not say, said Len. Trade secrets. I'm sure you understand. Stagger smiled. I figured as much. How much of this do you want to sell? Depends on the price, said Len. I'll pay you by the tonnage, said Stagger. Not by the cylinder. What price? Said Chubbs. Stagger told him. Chubbs was furious. That's outrageous. It's worth 20 times that amount. Stagger shrugged. Take it or leave it. Chubbs turned to Len. He's trying to rob us. That's the cash price, said Stagger. If you want to trade in food or fuel, I might be able to go a little higher. A little higher, said Chubbs, angry. You're crazy if you think you'll accept that. You came to me, said Stagger. I'm telling you my price. You don't like it? Go elsewhere. He's right, said Lem. You should have gone to Jupiter. Come on, Chubbs. We're wasting this man's time. Lem turned and moved back toward the ship. Chubbs squinted down at Skaggs. Yes, you seem to have so much business here. Why not let a big shipment like ours slip away? It's not like you need any money. He looked Stagger up and down, showing his disgust at Stagger's appearance, then turned away and followed Lem back to the ship. Lem had his hand on the airlock when Stagger shouted at them. Wait! I have another price in case you boys got all stubborn and annoying. Which you have. And what price is that? Said Lem. Stagger told him. Double that amount and you've got a deal, said Lem. Double? Said Stagger. You'll still make a fortune, said Lem. Which, if my calculations are correct, is more than the alternative. 0. Stagger growled. You corporates are all the same. Cocky thugs, the whole lot of you. From one thug to another. I'll take that as a compliment, said Lem.
Where'd the last one go?
Lem had his senior officers dole out
This
cash
one here.
to the crew. It was less than Lem had hoped to give them, but more than enough for a 2-day break. Because of the low price he received for the cylinders, he had been forced
Forgot what
to
I
sell
said.
more than he had intended. But he didn't worry. He still had more than enough to make an impression at the board. The inside of the way station was more attractive than the exterior, though not by much.
I honestly can't remember where I wanted to put the other one.
Merchants clamored for their attention, selling all variety of mining tools and worthless trinkets. It surprised Lem to see how many people lived here. Several hundred, if he had to guess, including children, mothers with infants, even a few dogs, which Lem found especially amusing, since these had learned to jump from wall to wall in zero gravity. Lem soaked it all in, feeling at home for the first time in a while. He didn't belong in space. He belonged in a city, where the energy was palpable and the sights and sounds and smells were always changing. They found a woman in the marketplace selling men's work clothes, and Lem bought nearly everything she had. Podolsky and the 2 security guards might be on the way station for a while, and Lem thought it would be better for them to blend in and dress like free miners. He didn't know if the clothes would fit perfectly, but since no one at the way station had any concern for fashion and all the clothes were baggy anyway, Lem didn't think it mattered. He paid the woman a large tip to deliver the clothes to the ship. And when the woman, who had a young boy with her, saw the sum of money in her hand, she was so overwhelmed with gratitude that she teared up and kissed Lem's hand. Lem could see that she was poor and that the child was hungry. So he gave her another large bill before sending her on her way. You getting soft on me? Asked Chubbs. It looked like she had sewn the clothes herself, said Lem, shrugging. Looked like that should be paid well. Chubbs smiled as if he knew better. They found a shoemaker next. Lem guessed at Podolsky's and the security guard's boot sizes, and then argued with the man about prices. They left after the purchases were made. Chubbs laughed. I think you were trying to overcompensate for being nice to that woman, he said. You took that shoemaker for a ride. He was trying to cheat us, said Lem. We could probably go back and find that woman, said Chubbs, teasing. Your father would be thrilled for you to come home with a bride. Lem laughed. Yes, my father would love a peasant's free miner as a daughter-in-law, especially one with a child. Father would be tickled pink. They entered the food court area, where a dozen aromas assaulted them at once. Pastries, pastas, breads, stews, even a few cooked meats, though these were exorbitantly expensive. They ran into Benyawe, and the 3 of them took a restaurant. It wasn't big enough, in Lem's opinion, to call itself a restaurant. There was only room for 6 people at the most.
Bud?
But Lem preferred the privacy. Late in the meal, Chubbs raised his bottle. To our captain, Mr. Lem Jupe. Jews, who salvaged our mission and turned a profit in the process. Ben Yahweh raised her glass and joined in the toast, but she didn't seem particularly agreeable to it. You shouldn't toast me, said Lem. Our real thanks goes to the lovely Dr. Ben Yahweh here, who tirelessly prepped the laser and conducted our field tests with aplomb. Without her brilliance, perseverance, and patience with her hot-tempered captain, we'd still be shooting pebbles out of the sky.
Seriously?
Ben Yahweh, said Chug.
I swear this fucking
Ben
game.
Yahweh smiled at Lem. Hosting me doesn't make you any more tolerable, she said. Of course not, said Lem. I barely tolerate myself. And we will be wise to remember that our mission isn't over until we return to Luna, said Ben Yahweh. We're months behind schedule.
There we
There
go.
are many on board who no doubt have written this mission off as a cataclysmic failure. Chubbs smiled favorably. I'm not trying to spoil
Alright, what else am I renting that I
said
shouldn't
Ben
be
Yahweh.
renting?
I'm merely reminding us all that we're still a long way from home. She's right, said Len. Perhaps we're a little premature in our celebration.
One of these suckers is rented? Are you serious?
Still,
Seriously?
I'll toast Ben Yahweh again for
Whatever.
being
That one
such
I
a
don't care. I'll pay
wise
$16
counselor
a day.
and an expert party.
Trommel's rented. That's gotta go.
Said Chubbs, raising
Definitely
his
need this
bottle.
Glacier
Ben
Creek.
Yahweh raised her own bottle and smiled.
Or D-Rock
Lemon juice.
replaced.
The words came from
That's
the
too
doorway.
much.
Lem and the others turned to the entrance and saw a mountain of a man standing at the threshold. He was flanked by 3 other men, all rugged and dirty, and not the least bit friendly looking. So you are Lem Jukes, said the big
That's
man.
gotta go.
Mr. Lem Jukes himself, son of the great
That's gotta
Yuko
go.
Jukes, the richest man in the solar system. We're practically in the presence of royalty. His 3 friends smiled. Can I do something for
Alright,
you?
so that's what we're
friend?
gonna do. We're going to
The man stepped into the room, ducking his head through the door frame as he entered.
run this drill machine up
I
here.
am Verbatov, Mr. Jukes, and we are not friends. Far from it. What grievance do you have with me, Mr. Verbatov? My friends and I were part of a Bulgarian clan working the asteroid belt 4 years back. 9 families in all. A Duke vessel took our claim and crippled our ship. Our family had no choice but to break up. Each of us went our separate ways, working what ships would take us on. The way I see it, Duke limited owes us for damages. The value of our ship and all the hell we've been through since. Silence followed. Len glanced at Chubbs and chose his words carefully. You were
Yeah,
done
don't go very far.
injustice, sir. And for that I am sorry. But your fight isn't with me. We aren't the people who took your claim or damaged your ship. Doesn't matter, said Verbatov. You're Duke Limited, the son of the president. You represent the company. Our lords represent the company, said Len. I'm about as far down the chain of command as you can get. If you have issue with how you've been treated, I suggest you take it to the courts. Verbatov laughed. The courts near Mars or Green? The areas of Mars from here. No, I'll take it out of court settled, said he. Don't bother telling me you don't have the cash. I have it on good authority that you just came into a bit of money and have a sizable loan on your ship. Stagger is a friend of yours, I take it, said Len. Verbatov smiled. What's the agreement you two have? Asked Len. You get back his money for him and he gives you a cut. I find that surprising, Mr. Verbatov.
Oh, you know what we forgot to
You don't
do?
seem like the type of
Idiot.
person who gives
Idiot.
back much of anything. Verbatov
That.
chuckled. Am I that transparent, Mr. Jukes? You are indeed, said Len. Pay us what we rightly deserve, said the man. The money isn't mine to give, said Len. It belongs to Duke Miller. He chose us. said the man. Write a complaint, said Chubbs. We'll see when it gets to the right people. Verbatov's smile faded. He motioned to one of his men behind him. "You will pay us what is rightfully ours, Mr. Jukes, or we'll be forced to have more conversations with your crew." One of Verbatov's men entered, pulling a weightless body behind him. It was Dr. Guppy. His face was black and swollen, but he was alive. "Chip," said Dr. Benyawe, starting to move to him. Chubbs grabbed Benyawe's arm, stopping her. Dr. Dublin looked dazed, unaware of his surroundings. "Dr. Dublin has been quite the chatterbox," said Verbatov. "He told us all about this gravity laser you have on your ship. Turns rocks into powder, he says. Very fascinating. Sounds like an entirely new way to mine rock. My brothers and I would appreciate a gift like that. That ought to cover our damages if Dr. Dublin was telling the truth, which I suspect he was, considering he broke a few of his fingers in the process." Wren said nothing. Verbatov looked down at Dublin and patted the man's head, gently pushing Dublin's floating body down toward the floor. "Unless you and I reach an agreement, Mr. Jukes, Dr. Dublin may accidentally break his legs as well." The dart struck Verbatov in the throat, and for a moment the man didn't know what was happening. There was a series of pops, and the men with Verbatov each slightly recoiled as darts buried into their chests, faces, or throats. Glenn was confused until Chubbs launched from the table toward the door, the weapon in his hand. Chubbs pushed past Verbatov and moved outside, sweeping his aim to the right and left, looking for stragglers. Verbatov's eyes flickered and then closed. His shoulders slumped, but he stayed upright in zero gravity. His feet still held to the floor.
This is the most boring stream you'll ever tune into.
Chubbs went back to him, put 3 more darts in his neck and moved one range. "What are you doing?" said he. "My job," said Chubbs. He grabbed Dr. Dublin and pulled his body toward the exit. When he reached Verbatov, Chubbs pushed the man's upper body aside. Verbatov's feet, like the trunk of a tree, didn't move, but his torso bent to the side enough for Chubbs to pull Dublin through the door and out into the hall. Len and Benyawe followed. Verbatov's men stood motionless like their leader. Shoulders sagged, eyes closed. Chubbs checked the men's necks for a pulse, clearly open out behind them. "You killed him," said Benyawe. "You can thank me later," said Chubbs, and waved his hand out. "And I just set an emergency command to every member of the crew on the station to get their butts back to the ship now." Lem's own hand held at his hip, vibrating as the message was received. Chubbs quickly pulled all the darts out of the man and deposited them into his...
Again, this is the most boring stream you'll ever tune into.
Benyawe repeated. The owner of the Thai restaurant approached, shocked. Chubbs instinctively raised his dart gun. Benyawe stepped between him and the restaurant owner. "Enough! We are not killing innocent people." Chubbs shrugged and pointed. "How deep? You and Benyawe pulled up. Upright if you can, not too fast. You don't want to draw attention." Chubbs put his hands in his coat pocket, concealing his weapon, and began walking quickly through the tunnels. They passed small pubs, kiosks, shops, and vendors. Everywhere they went, they got looks from people. Dublin's bloody face was hard to miss, and people stepped out of their way, giving them plenty of room. The closer they got to the ship, the more crewmen they encountered. Several joined them as they went, took one look at Dr. Dublin, and quickened their step. They didn't meet any resistance until they reached the docking tunnel. Stagger was blocking the way with 4 men. He carried a dart rifle draped across one arm. He saw the approaching crowd of Jeep crewmen and cried, "What's the hurry, Mr. Jukes? Leaving so?" Dart buried in Stagger's chest, and an instant later his eyes closed. The rifle slipped from his grip and hovered in space in front of him. The men with Stagger reached out of their coats, but before they could extract anything, a cluster of darts embedded into their chests, necks, and faces. In seconds, they were all silent and still. Lem couldn't believe what he was seeing. All around him, 7 or 8 crewmen had their weapons out, having just fired. Lem hadn't even known they had weapons.
Wow.
Out of your mind? Yahweh shouted at Chubbs. Chubbs turned to one of the crewmen, ignoring Yahweh. Would every dart accounted for? No traces. Yes, sir. The man and other crewmen began removing the darts from the dead. Lem watched in amazement. No shock in their faces, no panic, just quick, questionable obedience, as if the crew had trained for moments such as these. Yahweh stared at the standing corpses, then hurried to catch up to Chubbs, who was moving for the ship. You can't just shoot people like that and expect there to be no consequences, she said. The consequences of us staying here were far worse, said Chubbs. They will come looking for us, said Ben Yahweh. Chubbs stopped and faced her. Who? The police. This is a way station, Doctor. We probably just did every store owner and shooting vendor the biggest service of their lives by killing off the thugs and criminals who have been pushing them around. He gestured. These men are bad. That's simple enough for you. Probably murderers. Did you see the restaurant owner's face when the Martov came in? The man was scared goodness. What was it he stood there? Tomorrow, he and his store owner pals will be building a statue of us in our honor. Now, if you'd like to stay here and wait for the station security guard so you can apologize all formal, be my guest. But this ship is leaving in 6 minutes or less. And I suggest you get on it. Chubbs went to the stand, staggered a huge earlier, and called into his camera. Podolsky, get out here. In moments, Podolsky came out of the ship, wearing the free mine of clothing Lem had purchased. Erase our existence, said Chubbs. She understand. Every trace of this ship and our visit to this place is to be deleted. You understand? Podolsky looked uneasy. He noticed the dead men at the end of the docking tunnel.
What? Sorry, had to send emotional support text to the girlfriend.
What's going on? What happened to those people? It's nothing you need to concern yourself with, said Chubbs. Just do your job. Podolsky, said Chubbs. Podolsky stood, tapping the keys on the screen. Chubbs turned to him.
Nice.
Excuse me for understanding. You are Lem looked at Chubbs as if seeing him for the first time. You're living on ships for Chubbs looked. You can say that. We've never sent you on this mission to protect. To keep me from getting myself killed. Yes, said Chubbs. Lem, good. Keep it up. Lem turned to the gathered crew and spoke loudly for them to hear. Apologies, everyone. Stay here is cut short. But frankly, if your day on this thing was not as unpleasant as mine was, getting back on this ship would have really sounded a great idea. Lem couldn't clearly first carefully escorted Dr. Dublin inside. The other couldn't know. Podolsky took another moment at the terminal, then turned to Chubbs. "Skyner's clean. We were never here." Two crewmen came out of the ship wearing free-minor clothing. "I took the liberty of choosing two of our best men," said Chubbs. "Good," said Lem. Podolsky looked frightened. "I've been thinking about this agreement we made," he said, "but I don't think it's a good idea anymore. This place isn't safe." Chubbs slapped him on the arm good-naturedly. "You'll be fine. Wrangler and Ranger will provide all the security."
Bangor.
Lem regarded the two men. They stood there expressionless, like two cold soldiers. No, not like soldiers. They were soldiers. Father had loaded this ship with security personnel, and Lem hadn't even known it. "You can't leave me here," said Podolsky. "What if these people think I'm responsible? What if they know I'm a corporate?" Chubbs and Lem joined Benyawe in the airlock. "You'll be fine," said Chubbs. "Think of this as a vacation." Podolsky opened his mouth and shouted a response, but the airlock door was already closed. Lem watched the man through the small window. Podolsky looked angry and furious. The two security personnel stood behind, not moving. Farther down the tunnel, Stagger and the other corpses stood with their boots magnets stuck to the floor and their arms out loose beside them. "I don't suppose you're going to tell me why we are abandoning 3 of our crew," said Benyawe. "Couldn't you tell?" said Chubbs. "They wanted to stay."
Edimar flew down the corridor in El Salvador without looking at anyone. There were people all around her, going about their business, rushing past her, hurrying along their way. But Edimar pretended not to notice them. She couldn't bear to see their faces. Among them would be 1 or 2 people who still looked at her as if she were a fragile child. It had been months since Father's and Alejandra's deaths, yet there was still some in the family who always gave her that pitying look that said, "You poor thing, your father and sister dead. You poor, poor child." "I am not a child," Edimar wanted to scream at them. "I do not need your pity. I do not want your sympathy. Stop professing that you know what I'm going through, or that you know what it feels like, or that you know how hard this must be for me. You don't know anything. Was it your father who was ripped open by an hormiga and left to bleed to death? Was it your sister who had likely been blown to bits or had the air sucked from her lungs? No, it wasn't. So stop pretending that you're some fountain of emotional wisdom who understands everyone's grief and pain, because you don't. You don't know a thing about me, and you can jump in a black hole for all I care." She didn't mean it. Not the last part, anyway. But she did hate the sympathetic looks and the mournful sighs they gave on her behalf, as if all life was hopeless now. As if nothing mattered in the world, and she was resigned to spend the rest of her life wallowing in misery. The single most infuriating moment had been when her aunt Enrica had told her, "It's all right, Edimar. You can cry." As if Edimar needed permission from this woman. As if Edimar had been damming back all of her emotion and was just waiting for some grown-up to cue her to open the floodgates. "Oh, thank you, Aunt. Thank you. How kind of you to grant me the right to cry in front of you and humiliate myself just so I can prove to you and your snotty, gossiping sisters that I am, in fact, sad. Hey, Auntie, look, here's a tear dropped from my very own eye. Take note. Spread the word. Edimar is sad." It was so hurtful and demeaning and presumptive when her aunt had said it, that Edimar almost had cried. Right then and there, in front of everyone, in what would have been a burst of immediate tears. She had come so close. She could feel herself there at the precipice, so close to sobbing. The tiniest change in her breathing or the slightest tightening of her throat would have pushed her over the edge into uncontrollable sobs. Yet Fortunately, in some miraculous display of willpower, Edamar had kept her face unmasked and not betrayed the horror and shock and pain she felt at Aunt Enrica's words. How could people, in an effort to be helpful, be so clueless of art, so thoughtless and cruel? It was especially infuriating because Edamar did cry every day, sometimes for an hour at a time, always alone in the darkness of the crow's nest, where no one could see or hear her tears. Yet apparently, for the likes of Aunt Enrica, unless you're crying in front of everyone, unless you wore your grief on your sleeve and paraded your tears for all the world to see, you had no tears to shed. Edamar turned a corner and pushed off a wall, shooting up the corridor. She knew she shouldn't be so petulant. No one was feigning sympathy. They all had her best interests in mind, even Aunt Enrica, her sad, condescending way. The problem was, the people who should shut up were the ones talking the most. It made Edamar grateful for people like Segundo and Rena and Concepcion, people who didn't baby her or even broach the subject of Father's and Alejandro's deaths, but who simply asked her about her work and told her about theirs. That's all Edamar wanted. To be treated like a person who could handle her situation instead of being expected to act like a sad, blubbery sack. Drea was waiting for her outside the dining hall. They had agreed to meet here before going on to Concepcion's office to give their report. After Father's death, Concepcion had asked Dreo to assist Edamar with the eye whenever she needed it. Dreo, like the eager commander he was, had relished his authority. Edamar didn't need his help and certainly didn't want it. But Dreo still found opportunities to insert himself into her work. For propriety's sake, Dreo wasn't to visit Edamar in the crow's nest without another adult with him. And fortunately, this had mostly kept Dreo away, which was best. He knew next to nothing about how the eye worked or how to interpret its data. He understood the operating system and nothing more. But just because you know how an oven works, doesn't mean you can bake a souffle. Did you bring your holopad? Dreo asked. So, he was going to treat her like a child again. She kept her face expressionless and held up the holopad for him to see. Good. Is the presentation on it? Did he really think her an idiot? Or was Dreo this patronizing with everyone? Aloud, she said, "You're welcome to look at it if you want." He waved the idea away. "If there are flaws, I'll talk through them. Let's go." He turned and moved for the helm, expecting her to follow. How kind of you, thought Edamar. You'll talk through my flaws. What a team player you are, Dreo. Good thing we have your great intellect to rescue us from my flawed presentation. Edamar sighed. She was being bratty again. So what if Dreo is a pain? So what if he takes all the credit? The world could be coming to an end. There were more important matters than me getting my feelings stung. They reached Concepcion's office and were invited inside. Concepcion wasn't alone. Segundo, Bazim, and Selma were also present as well. "I've asked a few of the council to join us," said Concepcion. "I want their input on this. I hope you don't mind." "Not at all," said Dreo. "We prefer it." It annoyed Edamar that Dreo would presume to speak for her. He was right, of course. She did prefer more input. But Edamar hadn't expressed that to him, and she didn't like him making assumptions about her. "We know what the Hormiga ship looks like," said Dreo. "It's close enough and moving slow enough for the eye to create an accurate rendering. I'll let Edamar give the presentation, and I'll clarify points where necessary." Oh, he'll let me give the presentation, thought Edamar. How kind. As if Dreo could give the presentation himself, but was merely humoring a child. As if he knew the material better than she did. When in fact, It was Edamar who had done 95% of the work. And he would clarify points? What points, exactly? What did he know more about the ship than she did? She didn't look at him, worried that she might let her annoyance show. Instead, she busied herself with the holopad, anchoring it to Concepcion's desk, and raising the various antennae. When it was ready, she turned on holo. A computer-rendered image of the Omega ship appeared in front of them. The room went quiet. As Edamar had expected, everyone had the same, slightly baffled expression. The ship was unlike anything humans had ever conceived. It was a large, bulgy teardrop shape, seemingly smooth as glass, with its pointy end facing in the direction it was traveling. Near the front was a wide-mouthed opening that faced forward and completely encircled the tip. To give you a sense of scale, said Edamar, here's what El Cavador would look like beside it. A rendering of El Cavador appeared next to the Omega ship. It was like holding a grape next to a cantaloupe. How can a ship that big move that fast? Said Basile. It doesn't even look like a ship at all, said Selmo. It's circular. There's no up or down. It looks more like a satellite. It's too big to be a satellite, said Segundo. Besides, we know the pod came from inside the ship. How it left the ship at such a high speed is anyone's guess, but it must have. What stumps me is that I can't see any obvious entrances or exit points. What about this wide opening here at the front? Said Basile, pointing. Segundo shook his head. If I had to guess, I'd say that was a ram drive. Victor suspected the pod was powered by one, and this looks like a similar design. The ship scoops up hydrogen atoms, which at near light speed would be gamma radiation. Then the rockets shoot this gamma plasma out the back for thrust. It would be a brilliant propulsive system because you'd have an infinite amount of fuel, and the faster you move, the more hydrogen you pick up, and therefore, the more acceleration and thrust you'd generate. Scoop field propulsion, said Concepcion. Is that even possible? Asked Basile. Theoretically, said Segundo. It would only work on a ship built in space and intended for interstellar travel, though. You couldn't use a propulsion system like that to exit a planet or atmosphere. Too much G-force. You'd die instantly. But in a vacuum, you could accelerate quickly, safely. I wouldn't exactly call it a clean form of propulsion, though. It would be putting out massive amounts of radiation. You wouldn't want to fly behind it, even at a great distance. If it's powered by gamma plasma, the plasma would likely interfere with electronics and sensors as far back as, say, 1,000,000 kilometers or so. Stay in its propulsion wake too long, and it would cause tearing on the surface of the ship. And at closer distances, you'd probably get a lethal dose of radiation. Be right behind it, and you'd be disintegrated instantly. Lovely, said Selma. What I don't understand, said Basile, is how they can even see where they're going. I don't see any windows or visible sensors. The surface is completely smooth. It looks smooth, but it isn't, said Edamar. At close inspection, you can detect seams, indentations, and ridges. These circles. She tugged a command, and 4 massive circles appeared on the ship, side by side, around the bulbous end of the teardrop. We don't know what these are, she said. Doors, maybe. Or perhaps smaller ships that detach from the main ship. Whatever they are, they're massive. The whole thing is massive, said Basile. Which makes me wonder about defense. How does it protect itself against collision threats? It would get pulverized by asteroids without a good PK system. Look at it. No pebble killers, no guns, no weapons whatsoever. I couldn't discern any weapons either, said Edimar. But it does have a PK system. I've seen it. Any object on a collision course is completely obliterated. Asteroids, pebbles, comets, all vaporized by lasers from the surface of the ship. The surface, said Basim. Where? That's just it, said Edimar. From anywhere on the surface, it can fire from any spot on the ship. It's like the entire ship is a weapon. How is that possible? Said Basim. Lasers have to come from something. Edimar shrugged. Maybe there's some system below the surface that unleashes them. Maybe it has thousands of pores all over its hull that open and release the lasers. However it works, it's more powerful than anything humans have because it can fire as many pieces of glass at once. So instead of firing a single beam from 2 cannons like we do to hit a collision threat, Hormigas can fire a whole laser fire. The room was silent a moment. That's not exactly comforting, said Concepcion. Nothing about this is comforting, said Salma. Do we know what the lasers are composed of? Asked Segundo. No, said Edimar. But I don't think it's photons. Their beams can be up to a meter thick and react differently than our lasers. If you're right about the RAM drive, if they're using gamma plasma as propulsion, it's not far-fetched to suggest they use coherent gamma rays as their weapons, too. I mean, why not? If they can harness gamma plasma for propulsion, why not harness it and laserize it as a means of defense? Weapons and fuel from the same substance, said Concepcion. Certainly not. Laserized gamma plasma, said Salma. That makes our PKs sound like a joke. They are a joke, said Basim. The composition of the lasers is all speculation, said Dreo. What we do know is that their lasers only target collision threats. The Hormigas aren't blasting everything in sight. They're conservative with their fire. They follow the same protocol of any other ship in that regard. Unless the object is set to collide with them, they ignore it. That's good news for us, said Edimar. We're moving in the same direction as it is alongside the
Fucking
starship's
let's go.
trajectory. We're not on a collision course. When it passes us, it should ignore us. Unless it's blasting every ship in sight, said Basim. Just because it didn't blow up a bunch of rocks out there doesn't mean it won't gun us. What do we know? Maybe its mission is to destroy every human ship it sees. Didn't exactly leave the Italians alone, and they weren't a collision threat either. We won't be close to it when it passes, said Dreo. We're moving parallel to its trajectory, but at a great distance. It's never fired on anything remotely close to this range. So, it will pass us before we reach way station 4? Asked Concepcion. Yes, said Edimar. Which obviously means it will pass the way station before we reach the station. Though not by much. Concepcion turned to Segundo. Any luck with the radio? They had been trying for weeks to contact the way station, but without any success. Radio's only working for short distances, said Segundo. We've been sending out messages to the station, but all we hear back is static. There's a lot of interference. Maybe the Hormigas are scrambling the radio, said Basim. Segundo shrugged. Who's to say they even know what radio is? They may have another communication system entirely.
Bingo.
Or the problem might be the radiation our ship is emitting. Maybe that's disrupting transmission somehow, even at this distance. I don't know. So, the station still doesn't know the ship is coming? Asked Basim. Not unless they've detected it themselves, said Segundo. Which is possible, but I doubt it. It's not heading directly for them. It will miss them by 100,000 kilometers, so their computers probably won't alert them. You know the guys they have manning the control room. They're overworked dock workers picking up overtime. They're not experts like Godon or anyone. If it's not a collision threat, what do they care? If I had to guess, I'd say the station is completely unaware. The upside, said Dreo, is that based on the Omega ship's prior behavior, it will probably leave the way station alone and move right on by. We'll get there a day later, and we can use their laser line then. Concepcion leaned forward, staring down at the starship in the holospace. For the sake of everyone on board that station, I pray to God you're right.
Podolsky was hiding in a small rented room adjacent to a noodle shop in Way Station 4 when the authorities found him. They kicked in the door after Podolsky didn't answer, and he cowered to the back corner of the room. You could tell at once that they weren't real police officials. They were rough men, dressed like the men Chubbs and the ship's crew had killed at the docking tunnel before running in the rain. Podolsky here, stranded. "You know that," said the big man in the front. He had a European accent Podolsky couldn't place. "You're a tough bird to find, friend. I had to ask 3 different people before they tracked you down." He laughed. "That was a joke, friend. Come on now. No need for tips. We just want to ask you a few questions." Podolsky wiped at his eyes. Was he crying? He hadn't noticed. He wondered where Mangler and Wayne were. They were supposed to be protecting him. They were supposed to be right outside. "Who are you?" said Podolsky. "You might say we are the keepers of the peace around here," the man said. "And seeing as how there has been a disruption in the peace recently, our first question is, who are the new people on the station? Maybe they have some information on this. You follow me? Logical detective work." "I don't know anything," said Podolsky. The man smiled. "Now, friend, don't cut yourself so short. You know lots of things, I'm sure. Like your name, for instance. You know that much, don't you?" "Gunter Podolsky." "Podolsky," repeated the man, smiling. "You see, you do have information. Now, what ship did you come in on?" "Where are my friends?" asked Podolsky, finding his courage now. "The ones who were outside." The big man tried to hide his annoyance. "Your friends are being cooperative, Podolsky. We're asking them questions, and they're happy to answer them. You should answer them, too. It'll make it easier for everyone." Podolsky said nothing. The big man behind Podolsky's bag anchored to the table and filled it. Inside were various holopads and equipment for accessing and wiping El Habador. The big man whistled. "You're not making light, are you, Mr. Podolsky? These are some fancy machines, all so shiny and new. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this was corporate gear." Podolsky smiled. "I won't lie to you, Mr. Podolsky. This is bad news for you." He held up the bag. "This is incriminating evidence. One of the honorable entrepreneurs of this way station was robbed and murdered 2 days ago along with several of his employees, and this bag makes you a prime suspect. Personally, I don't respect the man, but he was one of our citizens, and more importantly, he owed me a good deal of money. And so I find you, Mr. Podolsky, a stranger with all this equipment for robbing people." "That's not what it's for," said Podolsky. The man raised an eyebrow. "You got other plans, do you? Enlighten me." Podolsky said nothing. The big man sighed. "You're not being cooperative, Mr. Podolsky. I'm no lawyer. That makes you look guilty." He took a step closer. "Now, if you have Mr. Strygar's money, this could all be resolved rather easily." "I don't have his money," said Podolsky. "I don't know who you're talking about." The man smiled. "You may not know his name, but you know the man. I'll refresh your memory. Dead guy. Docking tunnel. Ugly as a rock. Probably from getting hit in the face over the years for being obstinate. Just like you." The man's hand was suddenly around Podolsky's neck, squeezing. Podolsky gagged. His windpipe felt crushed. The man's fingernails dug into Podolsky's skin. These aren't difficult questions, Mr. Podolsky. I'm trying to use the book, and you're not meeting me halfway. So I'll be clear for your sake. You give me whatever cash you took from Mr. Steiner, and I'll do a poor job with the paperwork and forget anywhere I shared words. Let's do position. What do you say? Podolsky saw spots. His lungs screamed for air. He wanted to assure the man that he didn't have what he was looking for. He tried to say, I can't give you what I don't have. But all that came out in a wheezy, desperate whisper was, I can't. The man took it as defiance. Podolsky was flying. The man had thrown him, and Podolsky was weightless. Podolsky went through the doorway and out into the marketplace, his arms striking the door frame as he passed. He heard something snap. His body spun. People screamed and dodged. He hit something else mid-flight. He didn't know what, then struck the shielded glass wall opposite and bounced away. The big man caught him in the air and slammed him back face first against the glass. Podolsky's arm was broken. He could feel it bent awkwardly behind him.
Yikes.
The man was at his ear, saying something, but Podolsky couldn't make it out. Everything sounded muffled and distant. Beyond the glass was space, black and silent and sprinkled with stars. Podolsky wanted to tell the man that he had money for passage to the moon. The man could have that. Podolsky didn't care. The words wouldn't form his mouth. They were buzzing around inside and waiting for the words, but wouldn't get them out. He's going to kill me, thought Podolsky. I'm going to die here alone, 5 billion miles from home. There was a distant flash of light in space. And the sky was no longer black. It was a wall of green, flameless fire rushing forward. And in the microsecond before it consumed everything and burned up the world, Podolsky realized that death was coming after all. Though not in any way he'd expected. Nor was he, it turned out, going to die alone. It was a life full of surprises.
Where did gas go?
Chapter 17. Allies. Concepcion called the council to the helm, even though it was the middle of sleep shift. The adults quickly gathered, groggy and unkempt and alone. Way Station 4 has been destroyed, Concepcion said. We just received the data from the Eye a few moments ago. Their faces showed shock, hope, confusion. Those who had been half asleep were now wide awake. The Omega ship unleashed a massive burst of its weapon as it was passing the station, said Concepcion. The station subsequently went dark. No light, no. The main structure is mostly intact, but several pieces have broken off. We don't have any contact with the station, so we have no way to determine if there are any survivors. We've been trying to reach them for some time now, but without success. Segundo believes the weapon could be laserized gamma plasma. If that's accurate, then it's likely the station received a fatal dose of radiation. How many people? Asked Rona. We don't know, said Concepcion. Several hundred, at least. One of the Italian survivors began to cry. A woman, Mariana, who lost her husband and 4 children.
Damn.
Rena put an arm around her, comforting her. The news was reopening a still healing wound. I thought the Omega ship was a distance from the station, said Segundo. It was, said Concepcion. Which is one of the reasons why we suspect this may not have been a tactical strike. A strike? Said Basile. What could it have been? An accident? Edimar will explain, said Concepcion. Edimar stepped forward, and a rendering of the Omega ship appeared behind her in the hollow space above the table. It was an accident, she said. The Omegas deliberately fired their weapon, but based on what we learned from the Eye, it's not clear if the Omegas were targeting the station. What else could they have been targeting? Said Rena. If they hit it with a focused burst, it's too much of a coincidence to suggest they weren't aiming for it.
That's just it, said Edelman. The ship didn't fire a focused burst. It fired in every direction at once. She hit a command on the holotable, and a simulation began. A cylinder of gamma plasma ejected from all sides of the Omega ship at once, growing outward, getting larger, until the ship stopped emitting the plasma, and the fast-growing wall of destruction became a giant ring with the hole in the center, continually getting larger as it stretched out in every direction. The Omega ship didn't fire the way station, said Edelman. It fired at everything. The simulation was on the loop and began again from the beginning. If it fired in all directions at once, said Raymond, and has a long range, why didn't we get hit? Because we're much farther away, said Concepcion. Well behind the ship. We're 2 million kilometers. We're probably getting some radiation, but it has gracefully dissipated by the time it reaches us. Not enough to damage us. Not a lethal dose. Neither lucky. I don't know if I'd call this lucky, said Raymond. This means the ship's weapons are far more powerful than we thought. As if they aren't weapons, said Sidney. Or at least, maybe the ship wasn't using the radiation at that moment as a weapon. What do you mean? Asked Concepcion. If it's sucking up hydrogen atoms at near light speed and taking in all this radiation, it has to expulse it somehow, said Sidney. Especially when it's trying to slow down. It doesn't want to shoot it out the back like it normally does. That would only give it a massive thrust. And it doesn't want to accelerate. It wants to decelerate. So it must be getting rid of the build-up some other way. And if its weapons and fuels are the same substance like we suspect, said Concepcion, then its weapons are the means of releasing all that build-up, finished Segundo. Notice how the weapons fired in all directions at once, the same amount. That's logical, because if it releases the plasma on just one side, or if it released more plasma on one side than on the other, the plasma would generate enough thrust on that side to change the ship's course, which the ship doesn't want to do. Its course is set. So, the Way Station 4 was destroyed by the ship's exhaust? Asked Selma. If you want to call it that, said Segundo. It's the one drawback of their weapon. The ship never stops collecting hydrogen. And when they're decelerating, it's a problem because they have no other way beside their weapons to dump all the excess. So they blast it out in every direction. And whatever happens to be right outside, tough luck. That's irresponsible, said Bazin. If you have a system like that, you have to make sure nothing is in the way. But apparently the Omegas don't care if it's destroyed, said Segundo. So the way station was at the wrong place at the wrong time, said Rena. No, said Concepcion. The way station was destroyed by a careless species with no regard for human life. And silence. What are we going to do? Asked Segundo. I've made a decision, said Concepcion. Only because one had to be made immediately. It could be done wrong. It's not too late to change that decision, but I don't think I'm wrong. I told Selma not to decelerate. Rather than move for Way Station 4, we're moving to intercept the ship and attack it. The reaction was fierce and loud as everyone began speaking and shouting at once. Concepcion raised her arms to quiet them, but the tumult continued. Segundo's voice thundered over everyone else's. Quiet! The voices died. Let's hear her out, said Segundo. Thank you, said Concepcion. I know what I'm suggesting is extremely dangerous. Consider our situation. As far as we know, no one else is aware that this ship is headed to Earth. No one else knows it's killed hundreds of people, or that it has a weapon powerful enough to annihilate anything within 100,000 kilometers of it or more. Or sure that its creatures care nothing for human life and will attack without provocation. We're the only people who know that. And right now, we don't have any means of issuing a warning. Decision 4 is gone. We can hope that Victor will reach Luna and warn her, but he's still several months away. Your leaders will cover more space in that town, and if we do nothing, more people will die. How can we possibly stop it? Said Joel. We keep compete with its tech and weapons. A whole fleet of warships couldn't stop it. You thought going up against the car was impossible? This would be 1,000 times worse. You don't have to destroy it, said Concepcion. It might be enough to keep it. That would give Earth more time to build its defense. The military ships have time to come and destroy it. And how would we cripple it? Destroy it. We have 5 BKs. 5! And we've forgotten how big this thing is. We're a fraction of its size. 5 BKs might not inflict any damage. Don't know how we do it, said Concepcion. Not really. Doing nothing isn't an option. If we let it go, families will die. Or thousands, maybe. No offense, said Joel. But that's not our problem. We did our part. We destroyed the car. We saved 9 people. We sent Victor to Luna. We lost Torgon, Anda, and Farron. We made our sacrifices. We've done our duty. What you're suggesting will get us all killed. This is out of our hands now. It's too big for us to solve. Concepcion, said Bernard. If we can make it a take slowly, sure. Of course you will, said Dred. You lost half your family. You're angry. I, for one, would like to lead it. Besides, didn't you not just establish that they have a weapon that can destroy everything around it? Why didn't you be close enough to attack it? Don't think of it as a weapon, said Zeke. Think of it as exhaust. What difference does it make? Said Dred. If it fires it, you're just as dead. It does make a difference, said Segunda. Because if it just unleashed a massive amount of exhaust, it stands to reason that it won't be any more exhaust for some time. If we're going to strike it, how's time? You can't be serious, said Dred. They looked at those around them. This is insane. Children. You really miss them too? You don't have to do so long, said Concepcion. There are other ships ahead of us. If we can contact them, we can enlist help. We could load the children onto another ship and keep that ship out of the zone. We're not a ship, said Dred. This isn't our fight. It is our fight, said Concepcion. This is definitely our fight. That ship is a threat to everything alive. If all of you tell me I'm wrong, if all of you disagree, then I'll stop the ship. Otherwise, we're attacking that ship. How can we use planet with all this interference? The radio will be correct for 300 kilometers, said Segunda. It's the long distance messages that can't get through. If we get close enough to another ship, we can get a high bandwidth message through. Only to help us, said Bazine. Back to the selector, said Concepcion. The only mighty ships that could likely intercept the Amigas are ones that are already moving in this direction at high velocity. It gives the time for other ships to change the course and accelerate up to our speed. Selma, what ships ahead of us apart? Selma wiped his hand through the holospace and busied himself with the data from the eye. I've got 10 ships in front of us, but only 2 of them are matching our speed and moving in our direction. 10 ships, said Bazine. That's not much of an assault, especially if one of them is going to take the women and children. God, 2 ships, that's Concepcion. One's a ship, said Selma. Take class.
deal with it. Not the size of us. Just fighting with it. No, it was a Chinese mining corporation. A direct competitor of Jeep Limited. They were small potatoes, of course. It was its own life and dream. They stayed to themselves and didn't resort to plain jobs or plowing women. If anything, they respected their owners. What the captain was, his its own was almost certain to the ocean would have. About the other ship, Selma looked at the data and found. It's certainly vital. Splendid. Here it comes. It's long haul. I'll be damned if we want his help. As it's the only once whose ship it must be. It's vengeance, said Selma. Ram grabbed a meal box and found Benyawe already eating at one of the dining counters. I have an idea that I'd like you to pursue, Dr. Benyawe. Something to keep you busy on the flight home. We're not exactly twiddling our thumbs in the lab, then. We do work. Ram smiled. Naturally, this will be in addition to your current duties with the Glazer. I did not refuse. And it's not like you did Bedolski. Bedolski gave a special assignment that we will not take in turn.
Yeah.
He has passage to me. He didn't abandon him. The whole thing was his idea. He must have forgotten that when we left him behind. He didn't seem too eager to stay. Not into the last thresholds he was still. I take full responsibility. I had no idea it was following his criminals. It took decisive action. I don't think anyone can begrudge us for self-defense. It's Dr. Duncan. It's liquidated. The doctors reset the fingerprints. He's in the cast and taking meds. Good. He pulled the tab on his meal box, allowing the food to float to the top of the container where he could suck it up with a straw. She steadied.
Whoops.
Did we kill those men because they knew about the Glazer? No, we didn't kill anyone, Doctor. Chubbs and his security team, working under my father's instructions, saved our lives. And no, they didn't kill them to protect corporate secrets. We were threatened. You were there. Now, take it out of your mind. I need that brain of yours focused on other things. I believe that we focusing is the future of the company. But not in its present state. Not as a Glazer. It's too unstable. The subsequent gravity field is too unpredictable. We've been working 16 days for almost 2 years. We're getting ourselves killed to demonstrate this Glazer for you men. And suddenly you're not interested. On the contrary, I'm very interested. But I think you'll agree our current model once. The only suggestion I have to include. If it's a terrible idea, then you tell me. You're the engineer, not me. It's the idea. Two Glazer-like devices connected to each other like a bowler that can be placed on opposite sides of an asteroid. Humans. They operate under the same principle, but their gravity fields contact each other. So the asteroid is still rich to shreds by tidal forces, but the gravity field doesn't both unstable levels. It's far more contained. The rock is still bound to counter, but nobody dies. I'll put it to you, said the doctor. I'll oversee this. It's a good idea. It's worth exploring. He had expected a polite, yet slightly condescending lecture on how the idea was appreciated but far too impractical. A verbal pat on the head that essentially said, why don't you leave the thinking to the grown-ups? After all, how could he presume to think of something they hadn't? They were the most brilliant minds in their fields. He wasn't a scientist. He didn't know physics, not today. Yet, Benyawe was going with the idea, which he really quickly was a good idea. It did have promise. And wasn't this what entrepreneurs do? They have ideas and they call on people to make them happen. Isn't that what Father had done? Well, left the dining hall with a stately step. It was easy in zero gravity, because he was finally working out. It was all coming together. He had flipped onto the place never full of saying this was a gift to the board. He had successful kisses with the crazy. Podolsky was handling the snafu without comfortable, so that would go away. And now, if Binyao entertained cold food, he might return to Luna with plans for the next generation crazy, an idea for which he could largely take credit. Lem smiled. He had gone through a rocky patch, yes. The old Lem genius was back. His doctor checked his reflection in one of those shiny metallic columns positioned throughout the ship. He hadn't shaved in 2 days, but he liked this scalpel facial hair. It was that one the young mechanic could really feel metal seams and smooth. And with his shoulders back and checked his profile. It was the look of a leader, a face that demanded to be followed. He had Father to think about it. He straightened his jacket, checked his other profile, and continued on. He hadn't gone far when he passed a female cleaner. Somebody worked in the kitchen on the Mexico. He gave her his best smile. He didn't bother. Watch. Continuing on the way. So he still hadn't. After almost 2 years out of the game, he hadn't lost his appeal. He took a tune to his quarters and wondered if he should call on when he returned to it. It probably wasn't too early to think about that. If he achieved a more prominent place in the company as he expected, he would pay to have a woman on his side. Not necessarily a wife, per se. Someone who could accompany him to corporate engagements and charm members of the board. Lem put on some music, took off his sleeves and crown braces, and flung over to his computer tent. There was no shortage of beautiful women in his contact list. Human electronics, medicine, science, entertainment, even the Danish countess. No, Lem had found her rather self-absorbed eventually. He clicked through their photos and smiled at the memories. Many had progressed to the 3rd or 4th date, but rarely had they gone any further. Lem traveled too extensively and worked too hard. The most recent entry was over 2 years old, but that was to be expected. Lem had been in space. Other entries were as old as day. They would have to be on top of them. Well, that was just perfect. It's worse than you think, said Chubbs. You're asking for universe. Lem closed his eyes. Everything was coming apart again. Podolsky couldn't have wiped El Commodore already. It was too soon. The free miners had been tracking him. They must have read Lem's files, and now they're coming to name their price for the files to safe return. What do I tell them? Asked Chubbs. For a moment, Lem considered not taking the transmission. If he ignored them, maybe they'd go away. But no, if extortion was their agenda, they'd only go somewhere else and say they were to the risk. Put it through, said Lem. Don't worry, and I want you watching the report of this horror, Chubbs. You alone. I'll give you still. Chubbs
20 grand.
Its head appeared in the whole space. She looked exactly as she had months ago. Oh, Commander, please. Then checked his collar and moved his face over the polar space so that she could see him as well. There would be a time development for a conversation. There might be entirely on how close the two ships were. The old man spoke first. His two troops. But hopes that paths would never cross again. Circumstances demanded. And Concepcion Holidays knocked in the very door. Contacting me because we required no assistance. The station cleared has been destroyed. I am certain you don't find some the files were coming. The Chubbs would immediately start coming through. The way station cleared and destroyed. Impossible. Left there months. Less than a week ago. This was a trick. They were plotting something. As if Concepcion could read his mind, she said, "Everything I am about to tell you will sound ludicrous to you, and you will no doubt think this is some ploy on our part to seek revenge for your attack on our ship. I assure you this is not the case. I am contacting you, Mr. Juice, because we are desperate for your assistance. An enemy ship has entered our solar system. Among the data I have sent you are its trajectory and coordinates. You can look for yourself and see that it's there. This ship is already responsible for the death of an estimated 600 people, including everyone aboard those stations. I've seen evidence of my own crew. Among the data I've sent you are video of the alien species itself. This is not a joke, Mr. Juice, and I would not be contacting you unless we were in dialogue. I am sending you rendezvous coordinates. A weirdly vessel in the area has agreed to join us and camp on the ship 6 days from now. My hope is that you will add your ship's strength to ours. The alien ship continues to decelerate, and if we all accelerate and change our course slightly, we can intercept it and save countless lives, perhaps Earth itself. I will give you your full 3 hours to review our data and to respond. Please acknowledge message received. Attention to yourself. Remember the group, trying to keep his face free of any surprise. Message received. You will respond. Cargo out. He pulled his face out of the very space. Chubbs' head appeared almost instantly in front of him. He got their files. Thought he might be loaded with a virus, but it's clean. The navigator ran the coordinates she gave us for the ship. And Chubbs shook his head. You better get up here, Len. There's something out there. Something like I've never seen. Lem and Chubbs spent 2 hours going over all the data from El Commodore. When they finished, they immediately went looking for Benyawi. They found her down in the engineering room with 6 other engineers, drawing rudimentary designs on the wall of Lem's idea for the bridge. Benyawi smiled at that measure. Mr. Juice, just discussing this boulder-shaped design of yours. She could explain to the engineers what could explain their needs. Said Lem. He touched a button, and the drawings disappeared, and turned to the gathered engineers. If you'll excuse us, we need a moment with Dr. Benyawa in private on an urgent matter. Just here. The engineers exchanged glances, startled, and quickly gathered their things and left. Chubbs locked the hatch behind him. "You've got my attention," said Benyawa with a look of concern. Lamb first played the polo message from Concepcion. Then he played the hymns from El Capador on the wall. Benyawa watched everything in silence, showing little reaction, like a calculating scientific observer. She didn't even jump as Lem had when the Omega showed itself on the surface of an arc. When the bids were over, she asked specific questions, and Chubbs answered by putting the rest of the data from El Capador up on the wall. Benyawa was silent as she read through, flicking through the various windows, checking the math, rechecking the coordinates. When she finished, she turned and faced Lem. "Can't call them Omegas. That's Spanish for ants. The scientific community would never approve of a living language classification. It needs to be for Latin. Forming. At least, that's my professional recommendation." Lem blinked. "Who the hell cares what we call them? I just showed you a damn alien species, Benyawa. What difference does their name make?" "All the difference in the world," said Benyawa. "This is the greatest scientific discovery in our history, Lem. This changes everything. This answers the most fundamental scientific question out there. Are we alone in the universe? The answer obviously is no. We are not. And further, we're not the most technologically advanced species either. It will sting every human's pride, I suspect." "I am not interested in science, Doctor," said Lem. "Your scientific mind might be tickled pink at this discovery, but my mind, my logical, practical, reasoning mind, is P-E-E-N-S pants. There is an alien ship out there, rocketing toward Earth with unimaginable firepower and likely malicious intent. Now, if there is any chance whatsoever that this is a hoax, and Chubbs and I are gullible idiots, tell me now." "No," said it. "This is legitimate. The evidence is incontrovertible." "You're down with the mind?" asked Chubbs. "No. We need to relay this information to Earth immediately." "We can't," said Chubbs. "Long-range comm is currently shot because of the interference." "Did the laser line?" asked Benyawa. "The transmitter's up," said Chubbs. "El Capador believes the venting of the alien ship may have damaged external sensors as far away as a million kilometers. We hadn't tried sending the laser line in a while, or we would have noticed the problem soon." "Now you know what we know," said Lem. "How do we respond to El Capador? I've already gotten Chubbs' opinion. Now I want yours." Benyawa looked surprised by the question. "We tell them we're fine, of course. We tell them we'll be at their side, giving them everything we've got. We have to stop that ship, Lem. Destroy it if we can. Though I suspect their captain is correct. Thinking it is the best we can hope for. But as for our answer, it must be a resounding and absolute yes. The Macabre will join the fight." Lem nodded. "That's what I thought, Lewis." "You disagree?" asked Benyawa. "It's my vote against both of yours?" "No," said Lem. "The decision's unanimous. We attack these bastards."
Chapter 18. Forms. Two eggs floated in the hollow space in front of Concepcion. Engineers and Captain Marchand of the Lincoln Corporation. Their ships were still several days away from intercepting the Hornet ship, but they were now close enough to each other that a three-way conference was possible without much interference. Concepcion, despite feeling exhausted and suffering through a flare-up of arthritis, in places when she couldn't count, put her best face forward in the holospokes. Let them see my eyes, and they let me as a tongue. Being not finished. No introductions. Shine seemed the most capable captain. Then Jude sat in air of his father about him, which was to say, confident in a way that was both alluring and off-putting at the same time. He was in his mid-30s, so Concepcion had to guess. Charming, less than half her age. Pretty she was old. She had still been on Earth when she was that age. Being in her father's bubble bath and having less than scaling, convinced that she would be stuck there in the heat and dust for the rest of her life, selling cold bottles of Malta to the banana farmers as they came down from the fields. How long she looked. After the introductions, Mom wasted no time getting into tactics. I surprised Concepcion by accepting the call to help so readily. Concepcion had assumed that it was Len's conquering spirit, his need to subdue anything that motivated him. But now, as he offered up ideas and showed concern for the safety of the other ships, as well as his own, it occurred to Concepcion that perhaps Len's compulsion to help had been driven by a genuine desire to protect Earth. That hit Concepcion's mind, these selfish motivations led to abandonment and betrayal in the fight. And if any of them hoped to survive, they would have to trust each other. If the pod took direct hits from the Italians and suffered no visible damage, they said, we can only assume the main ship has the same shielding. We won't win this with lasers, said Concepcion. The moment we open fire, the forwards will know we're there. The instant they're aware of us, we're in trouble. We prevent their weapons like they did Railway Station 4, and we didn't know what hit us. Then, how will we attack them? Asked Roshan. The Italians couldn't damage the pod with laser fire, said Concepcion. But a few of my men were able to land on the pod with coupled sensors and equipment with tools. There are no sensors or equipment on the surface of the former ship, said Len. It's smooth. There's nothing to attack. Besides, it's moving at 70,000 miles per hour. Are you suggesting we put men on the surface of that ship at that speed? That's exactly what I'm suggesting, said Concepcion. The only way we know to penetrate their shielding is to be on the surface, right there on the pod. We know the surface of the pod is magnetic, so there is a high probability that the surface of the main ship will be as well. If our men are equipped with binoculars, we could crawl on the surface of the ship and plant explosives. We could set these on a timer with enough of a delay to get our men back to our ships and to move the ships a safe distance away. If we're lucky, bring about the points we know we will make. That's a fair point, said Roshan. I like that aspect. What if the hull is so strong that explosives don't damage it? Strong. We don't know what material the ship is made of. It could be impervious to attack. It could be 10 meters thick. If that's the case, then nothing we do can stop it, said Concepcion. But we won't know that until we have released the hook. And if the hull is impenetrable, then we've learned something valuable. That's intelligence that will help whoever fights the next. I'm assuming you have explosives, said Len. I'm assuming all of us have explosives, said Concepcion. Don't you occasionally use explosives to break your surface wall? A shot?
Sweet.
said Len. That's your question, Miss Concepcion. You very forcefully took our dig site. I assumed you wanted it for mining purposes. What were you going to do with it, if not extract minerals? There was an awkward silence. Roshan looked back and forth between them. I'll check with our quartermaster, Len repeated. You do that, said Concepcion.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Because the more explosives we plant, the more damage we'll obviously inflict. How does this work? Asked Roshan. How do we safely get men onto the surface of the ship after we match its speed? We make zip ties using mirror cables, said Concepcion.
Then we fire cables with magnetic anchors down to its surface. When the cables are secure, our miners clip onto the line and fly down to the surface with their propulsion belts. They can't be wearing lifelines because we can't fly that close to the forming ship. But they could wear portable oxygen and batteries. They plant the explosives, fall back to the main cable. Then they either fly back up or put them in the bridge. That's a lot of moving parts in this ocean. 1,000 things could go wrong. What if the magnetic anchor is in the ship breaks? Or if the surface of the ship can detect movement? Explosives after we had damaged them. Literally vanished into a cyber and spent several minutes on their hull before we responded. She was silent, but even finally Roshan said, I don't have a better idea, and I agree that Stella is best. We don't have a reach on our ship, so we'd be no help for us. Actually, I was going to suggest that your ship stay out of the light for the time. So please have That's that. It's just the so intelligence is too important to doctors. We send one of our crewmen to Luna with much of this intel that we have already brought up here online. Can you take it seriously? If this attack fails, some ways to bridge with everything we know. I suggest that your ship, Captain Roshan, you can record everything from a distance. We can load all the women and children from our ship into yours prior to the attack in the event that something happens to us. I agree, said Len. Your ship is the smallest and least armored, Captain Roshan. Anyone stays back, it should be good. Roshan sighed. Doors like the sir. I agree that everything we know must be delivered to Earth. If I'm to take on my Americans and children, we'll have to run our ships and fly with our speed, which is dangerous. We can't just celebrate to bomb, and never capture the forming ship. We have to trust our computers and our planes, said Mrs. Have our crew make preparations. Rena went to the docking hatch at the designated time, carried the small bag for a simple change of clothes, signals to the side. Her shoulders, there was commotion on infants crying, infants shushing, small children flying out despite their parents stern commands to quiet and still. Particularly the younger mothers and wives, and to their husbands who were standing home. Anna refused to cry. To cry was to acknowledge that something terrible had happened, that this parting between her and Segundo could be their last. She refused to open. Possibly alarmed by that, stopping again. Even if the English ship was close enough, prepared to dock, and white children moved their hands on his head. The docking hatch watched the solid speed behind the walls. The plane said as if she could see the approaching ship on the other side. Segundo's hand went to his handheld and turned off the alarm. Silence.
Oh, can't do that with the water then.
And Segundo's voice was loud. There may be a jolt when we dock. Everyone get close to a wall and hold on to something. Parents immediately pulled their children in close and floated to one of the walls, clinging to a pipe or a handhold. Segundo and Rena moved to a corner and anchored themselves. Docking the ships like this is ridiculously dangerous, said Rena quietly.
Hold the phone. Who's next to next? Yeah. Yeah, it's a...
And not for the first time. It's necessary, said Segundo. It is not necessary. We should be staying on the ship, or at least I should. There's no reason for me to go. I don't have small children. Our only son isn't even on the ship anymore. I should be staying with you. I'm useless on that ship. You're not useless, said Segundo. You have a talent for comforting others. These women need you, Rena. Now more than ever. You can be a strength to them. I can just as easily be a strength to you. He smiled. I always will be. But you can't be by my side through this. I won't be on the ship. She turned her head away from him. She didn't want him speaking about the attack. She knew the particulars. He had told her the plan and the risks he would be taking, but she didn't want to think about it. To think about it was to imagine every possible thing that could go wrong. He put his arm around her waist again. She turned back to him and saw that he was smiling at her gently. It was the smile he always gave her when he realized it was pointless to argue with her and he was conceding defeat. And this time, he couldn't concede. She couldn't stay. It would cause a panic. Other women would then insist on it, and those with children who wanted to be near their husbands would then be torn. Leaving would suddenly look like abandonment and not a command they were forced to obey. Rena felt safe right then. Despite the docking, despite the hormigas or formix or whatever they were called now, she felt safe with his arm around her. She had wanted to argue with him and to object again to the whole stupid affair. But his smile had burned away the fight in her. There was a violent jolt as the Wuhu ship touched down, and several people screamed. The lights flickered. Rena put a hand to her mouth, stifling her own cry. Then it was over. The ship steadied, and for a moment all was quiet. Muffled noises then sounded on the other side of the docking hatch as someone secured a seal and pressurized the airlock. The light above the hatch turned from red to green, and two sharp knocks clanged on the hatch. Nazim opened the hatch.
Fucking hell,
An
man.
Asian man floated through. His uniform suggested that he was the captain, and Concepcion approached him and greeted him. Words were exchanged, though Rena couldn't hear. Concepcion then turned to everyone in the corridor and said, Captain Dorshan here has taken a great risk to dock with us, and we appreciate his kindness in taking you onto his ship until this matter is over. Please show him the same courtesy you have always shown me. Now let's do this quickly. Single file. Keep the line moving. The people closest to the hatch began to gather their things and move. Rena suddenly felt panicked. It was happening. They were moving already. She hadn't said goodbye. This was too quick. She turned to Segundo.
Wow.
He was looking down.
Almost like I put it here.
He put
not
his
there.
hands on her arms and smiled in that disarming way again, the way that blocked out everything and everyone around her. That look of his that could silence all the world for her. People around them were moving into position, getting into line. Rena ignored them. There were a million things she wanted to say to him.
Okay, where'd that
Nothing
just
that
go?
hadn't been said already every day of their married lives. Nothing that he didn't already know. But still she wanted to say them. Yet, love suddenly felt like such a small word. It wasn't love that she felt for him. It was something much greater. Something that she didn't have a word for. He slid something into her hand. She looked down. It was 2 letters sealed in envelopes. Her name was written on one. The other was for Victor. Her tears came instantly. No, she was not taking letters. A letter is what husbands write to their wives when they don't think they're coming back. And he was coming back. This wasn't goodbye. She wouldn't even entertain the thought. She shook her head.
We were missing a grade now because it decided to yeet itself into the underworld.
You can read
What the
me
fuck
that
is this
over,
thing?
she said. And you can give that letter to our son someday. He smiled, but seemed a little hurt. I'll make you dinner, she said, wiping at her eyes. Then we'll squeeze
Can't turn this thing back on until we find it.
Read me every word. Nothing would make me happier. Aren't you curious to know what it says now? She put a hand on his cheek. I already know what it says, Luciano. And I feel the same way. He nodded. His true smile returned. He put the letters back in his jacket. I get to pick the hammock, he said. A very small hammock. It may be crowded. You'll have to float very close. She embraced him, holding him tight.
Where the fuck did that thing go?
Holding his shirt with her tears. The line was moving. Half of the people were already gone.
Last time it went like here.
He told her. She cleared her throat and composed herself. What was she doing crying like this? She took a deep breath.
Ugh.
This was absurd. She was
Yes, this is absurd.
Everything was going to be fine. He took her bag and offered her his arm. I can carry my own bag, silly, she said. It's weightless. Never deny a man his chivalry, said Segundo. She shrugged, relenting, then linked her arm in his and let him escort her to the hatch. When they reached the hatch, he gave her back her bag. The line never stopped moving. Their arms parted. She was going through. There was no time to stop. She looked back and saw him once before she was forced to turn a corner. A hand took hers and gently pulled her into the woohoo ship. It was a female member of the crew, young and Chinese and beautiful. Guan Yin, a woman said.
Seriously.
And then in English, welcome. Thank you, said Reina. The lights on the woohoo ship were brighter than she was accustomed to. She squinted, letting her eyes adjust. The ship was sleek and modern, with tech everywhere. Nothing like a Harur. She moved to where the other mothers and children were gathered, giving words of comfort and embraces where she knew they were needed. The hatch closed. The two ships separated. The crew moved Reina and the others to their quarters. The rooms were small, but everyone would have a hammock at least. Besides, it was only for a few days. Reina moved to place her bag in the designated compartment and saw that the bag was open. She was sure she had closed it. She looked inside and found items she hadn't packed. 2 sealed envelopes. One addressed to her, the other addressed to Victor.
Mono wasn't getting
Okay.
the room. Of that he was certain. He had come to the docking hatch with Mother and all of the
Well,
other women and
shit.
children. But just because he was 9 and small and technically a child didn't mean he couldn't help on El Salvador. Hadn't Victor told him
Why don't you go buy another one of these fucking things?
Wasn't that his job? Who would do the small handwork for Segundo if the ship needed repairs? No, he was staying. He had a duty. Except for one problem. Mother. She was holding his hand like a vice. For this to work, Mono was going to have to lie. And he hated lying, especially to Mother. He watched as the docking hatch opened and the woohoo captain floated into El Salvador. The man spoke briefly with Concepcion, and then Concepcion made an announcement. Show the captain respect. Be good. Blah, blah, blah. The same instruction every adult always gave. Of course everyone would be good. Be staying on someone else's
Up
ship.
here.
Guest rules. Everybody knows that. Except Mono wouldn't be staying there. He'd be staying right here. He turned to Mother and saw that she was crying. Not openly. Not big tears like girls his age would shed just so an adult would come running. But real tears. Quiet tears. The ones
Nothing out here.
To see. He squeezed her hand and spoke gently. It's going to be all right, Mother. She wiped her face, smiled, and lowered herself so they were eye to eye. Of course it will, Bonito. Mother is being a blubbery fool. It was a word she used whenever we thought of crying this way, and he smiled. He
Well,
knew he
damn.
was too old for such childish words, but they always helped Mother stop crying when she said them, and so Mono didn't mind.
Okay, let's go check over by the delivery area.
And say their goodbyes. Mother had no one. Father had gotten sick when Mono was too young to remember, and the medicine Father had needed hadn't been on board. Mono watched as Mother gathered her things and moved into the line, still wiping at her eyes. How could he leave her now? She would be terrified to discover him not on the ship. It would break her heart. She would be furious. But hadn't she told him that he was one of the house? Hadn't she called him her protector? Always in a way that was cute, yes. Always in a way that suggested she really didn't mean it. But wasn't it true? He was the man of the house. He was her protector. And if he could prove that to her, if he could make it real for her, maybe all the sadness she felt for Father would go away. I wonder if we'll find a line in Zappa, with Mono. Zappa talked. Big shoes, just boy Mono's age. Probably his best friend. He didn't know Victor or Segundo. Stay with me, Mono. Please, I want to see inside the ship. We'll be in the ship in a minute. But Zappa's father gave him a handout that has a Chinese translator on it so we could read it in Chinese. It was a lie.
I have no head. I am fucking headless. Oh no. Oh no. The headless Goldsman. Wrong turn.
She sighed, annoyed. Stay where I can see you. Mother didn't wait for her to change her mind. He launched upward, grabbed his handhold, turned his body, launched again, and landed beside Zappa, who was sniffling and wiping at his eyes. What are you crying for? asked Mono. My papito, he's staying behind. Zappa had 6 brothers and sisters, all of whom were ahead of him. As was his mother.
Oh.
I need you to pretend that I came with
720. God damn, man. What a hell of a loss.
Asleep. What? I'm not going on the Voodoo ship, but I need you to make it look like I did. You're not getting on the ship? Listen, when you get inside, my mother's going to come looking for me. They're in the bathroom. Which bathroom? The bathroom on the Voodoo ship. You said you weren't getting on the Voodoo ship. I won't be in the bathroom, meathead. I'll be here, hiding on El Calvador. Zappa's eyes widened. Are you stupid? You're going to get me in trouble. I need to stay in hell. Just tell my mother I took the handheld with the translator into the bathroom to study Chinese. Zappa made a face. You're talking to Lupo, Mono. You took the foul. Just tell her. They reached the hatch. Mono looked back. Mother was talking to someone else. Not paying attention. Mono stepped away from the line and picked out some plates as Zappa and his family went through the hatch. Mono stayed there, not moving until long after the hatch closed and the Voodoo ship flew away.
Webb brought up the record of the flaming ship and enlarged it as much as he could in the hollow space over his desk in his room. Vignale and Chubbs floated nearby, watching them. Why not simply shoot the thing with your bullets in it? Asked Webb. That blast of voltage to smithereens and be done with it. Fireplace flying down to the surface and planting explosives. Refire the laser and turn the ship to dust.
It wouldn't burn, said Vignale. The Vortex ship was too big and too dense. The laser wasn't designed for that type of mass. It was designed for rocks.
Asteroids are filled with dense metals, said Lamb. Compositionally, they're essentially the same thing.
Let's not forget what happened that last time we fired the laser, said Vignale. It's too unstable. We have no idea what type of gravity field will result, if any at all. Nor can we assume that the same metals we find in asteroids are the ones used to construct this ship. The Formix may use alloys unlike any we've ever seen. All we know is that the surface of that ship is designed to resist collisions and high radiation at near light speed, which means they're incredibly strong, far stronger than any asteroid.
If that's the case, then what good will explosives do? Asked Chubbs.
How the ship responds to the explosives will tell us a great deal about the hull's strength, said Vignale.
All right, I'm going to stop it here.
Reason why I question the Glazer. Consider our speed. We're traveling at 70,000 miles per hour. The Versa wasn't built for that. If we extended out of the ship to fire...
Okay. Yeah, gonna call it quits there. Girlfriend's on her way home. We have to start the dinner thing. And, yeah. But we're back on tonight with some Battlefield content. And I think tomorrow I will actually do some more Cyberpunk. So, until then.